Ugly God, the booty tape. Let's discuss it. No reaction, all review for this one. Wait. Alright, chill. Ugly God, whose real name is Royce Rodriguez, has been making waves in the music world and in the rap game for, I would say, a few years now. Not too long, but just long enough for him to be a decent name, at least on the internet. Produces a lot of his own tracks, I believe all of his own music. And he's known to tackle a lot of subjects in his music with a strong sense of humor. That's where I see the appeal in someone like Ugly God, because he's like one of your best friends or someone you could easily encounter at school. Even as a rapper, he's not beyond the reach of everyday people. And that kind of neutrality of being able to go to the place of extreme normality and extreme fame, I guess, is what makes Ugly God such a relatable person, makes his music so tolerable in a lot of instances. Now, if you're asking me personally, the appeal in Ugly God's music doesn't necessarily show up all throughout this project. We do get cuts on here like The Water that was released long before this tape, and after the track that he released not too long ago where he literally disses himself the entire song, he had a lot of eyes staring at him to release this project. I wouldn't say there was heavy anticipation for this thing to be one of the best mixtapes this year or one of the best compilations, because he hasn't come out and said it's an album or a mixtape. He's doing what Drake did and saying it's like a compilation of music. But I would say it runs more like a mixtape than a playlist or a compilation necessarily, because it does have a very...
this part is boring. Pretty much what he's trying to say is that Ugly God has this tendency to make tracks that are pretty samey. In a lot of instances, this whole thing follows a pattern. I wouldn't necessarily say that about Ugly God himself, because he actually knows how to ride these tracks really well. His delivery and his flow is really calm, and he seems to know how to take control of a song. So I'm really not too upset with the fact that some of the songs come off very samey, because Ugly God, you know, he doesn't have a bad flow or bad delivery. He's Ugly God doing what Ugly God does.
I don't know if you can say that about all of Ugly God's music, but it is kind of apparent that this music, within this body of work, does contain a bit of a trend. And I think one of the things that keeps me from judging this thing too harshly is the fact that I know it's aware that it's meme music. It's not music that's meant to be taken seriously. It's not trying to be anything more than it actually is or impactful in any way or trying to make a statement. It's literally just Ugly God releasing more of what goes on in the mind of Ugly God. What he's been doing shows up on this project, so if you're expecting anything different, you might want to check somewhere else. That being said, although this is Ugly God doing what Ugly God normally does, it's him doing it in a less compelling and less entertaining way. I'm not necessarily saying that this project is bad by any means, because it definitely is. It's aware of that, so there's really no need for me to say it. But some of those elements that made a track like Water, you know, so great, which was the catchiness of the song, doesn't necessarily show up on a project like this at nearly any point, with the exception of Stop Smoking Black and Mild or possibly Nasty H0e. Where Ugly God, his performance on this track is just so weird that it's funny the entire song. It does get old and it does get annoying in my opinion, but the fact that it's aware of that, it makes the song a little bit more likable. I'm not saying it's a good track, but for Ugly God standards, I do believe it's entertaining, one of the more entertaining tracks out of this body of work. It's the same tone of voice almost the entire track, and it's just as entertaining when it ends as when it starts. And the fact that you could view this track also as a parody of every try-hard rap / R&B wannabe, I find even more enjoyment out of a track viewing it in that context. I like what he's doing here, I do, but out of the 7 tracks that are new on this thing, not all of them contain, like I said, that entertainment factor, even though they do contain lyrics from Ugly God that are very comical and sometimes just very noteworthy, like the line on here where he says, "I'm the booty gang pastor, the hash-slinging..." The SpongeBob reference is like ridiculously funny. I was so conflicted at this point in the album, I didn't know if I wanted to shut it off or I wanted to keep replaying him saying that exact same line over and over and over again. Just that one line makes the entire tape worth a listen. The thing with Khalifa on the track No Lies is like, I don't know, it's like seeing Denzel Washington in a sex scene. Like, you don't need to do this anymore. You can stop whenever you feel like it. The only issue I have with Ugly God's delivery on this thing, and even his flow at sometimes, is that it's always waiting for the punchline to come. Like, he'll say something with the intention of setting up a punchline in a moment, but you're always waiting for that punchline instead of the line that he just said. We were talking about punchlines in reference to this being a comedic meme music album. I wouldn't necessarily say it succeeds at that, because even though this thing is a comedic compilation of music, it's not actually going out of its way to stand out as that. It's not like Pink Guy Pink Season, where every track on there was inexplicably, inexcusably cringy and at points just purely shock value. It's not like a Lil B project where it's not meant to be taken seriously, but at the same time it kind of is. It doesn't make those kinds of broad statements. It stays in this category of music without going too far, and that to me is what holds it back, because if I didn't know that this is the purpose for this project, I would have no reason to listen to it. The fact that this thing is so painfully self-aware of the fact that it is just a meme is kind of what also holds it back for me, because you're listening to each track knowing that even Ugly God understands that this isn't music that is meant for the average rap fan and is meant just for the people who want to connect on a very comedic level with his music. So once I understood that that's what the project was for, I actually started to lose more entertainment value in listening to it. I started to see less of a purpose or less of a reason to listen to it. As simplistic, catchy, and as great as even the music video for Water is, the fact that Ugly God is using these references to connect deeper to his audience and just to prove to them that I'm a regular guy too can also be kind of off-putting. Or like LDC, which you don't want to know what that means. The little "thanks Ugly God" vocals that come in on almost every track just gets old, as if we don't already know who's producing it. I think one of the things about Ugly God's production on this thing is the fact that it's so smooth and not trying to be over the top or trying to be this grand scheme to try to draw you in. It doesn't abuse anything. It does use bass line like every other rap song out there, but Ugly God does it in much more subtle ways that makes you listen to the track and him as opposed to just being there for the instrumental. Like on the opening track that says "Welcome to the Booty Tape," which one of my subscribers actually told me that samples the voice of Cuff Boys and his mother, a YouTube reaction channel where the mom pretty much reacts to the new school music, and he's asking his mom, you know, her opinion on what they just listened to, which was Ugly God's music, and she's going in, like, she's ranting, she's critiquing his music and everything like that. But I feel like that part just takes up way too much of an already short song. If you wanted this to be its own separate little track, you could have made it into its own separate little track. Speaking of interludes, that's how a lot of this thing actually plays. It's like unfinished songs every single track. The tracks on here that are the appropriate length for a proper song, in my opinion, are the tracks on here that were released before the album came out. Which leaves you wondering about this mixtape, what is there to enjoy? This thing is a very easy listen because it is so short. It's condensed into a very cohesive compilation of music, but in my opinion, that leaves less to be enjoyed. Because it's so short, because all the tracks play like an interlude, because a lot of the production on this thing is similar, although it's good, it's smooth. Would kind of want a bit more of a switch up at some points, even though, like I said, it's aware, we're aware, you're aware that it is meme music and Ugly God isn't taking it too seriously. You do wonder where he can go, and he's not giving you enough. Even though he is a very comedic person, he's putting his personality on every single track and letting it be known that he's a regular person with these thoughts roaming out through his mind. You're wondering, what is it about Ugly God that is gonna keep making me listen to his music? Because if he keeps releasing tapes like this, it's not gonna go that far. I was aware of the fact that, you know, a couple of these tracks, he wasn't able to include all the tracks that he wanted to because of issues with his label. But the tracks that did make the cut is like, what were the tracks that you decided not to put on the album if these all made the cut? I feel like what Ugly God was going for here, I do understand, but I don't think he executed it in the best way I feel like he possibly could have. Well, I do very much understand the concept of this project, which is the fact that it is a walking meme, and I like that it's aware of that fact. I don't think that Ugly God understands that you can still have an idea to each track separately and still make it meme music. It can be just as funny, just as hard hitting, but a lot of this thing goes back to lines that were mentioned earlier, like the crazy amount of Asian lines in this thing, just unnecessary. Why?
Do I need to go over some of the lines on this thing? Ugly God, please tell me, what were you thinking? Okay, just explain this real quick to me. What exactly what were you thinking when you said the line, "My pocket's thicker than an elephant"? Girl, you know I'm fiending. Eat this meat, you ain't no vegan. I mean, look, I'm not expecting that much, okay? This dude had a rough life, alright? Seriously, respect this man, alright? He started out as pussy bacon, alright? Right out of college, right? You know, he was struggling. He had to do some things. Thank God he had good parents that told him to get rid of that name, but still, that was a tough decision.
LDC was a good concept. We got a couple of songs on here that also follow a decent concept, but as far as the whole thing, I don't really think it has any replay value. I can't really see anybody viewing this as anything more than a quick meme that they scroll through in their phone and then they're done with it. Ugly God, the Booty Tape. I hope you guys found enjoyment out of this project. I tried to. I liked some of it. Wasn't great. It just wasn't great. Shawn C, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a big thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Stay ugly. I don't know what, whatever.